It began like any ordinary night until the screams echoed through Huntington Station. Commuters ran for their lives as chaos erupted on the platform. Phones shook, people shouted, and one man dressed head to toe in black held a kitchen knife dripping with blood. The sound of sirens filled the air. Then, the words that froze everyone. "Kill me! Kill me! Kill me!" shouted the attacker as police closed in. Within seconds, a flash of electricity cracked through the chaos. The suspect was tasered to the ground, wrestled, and cuffed under the harsh glare of station lights. The footage spread like wildfire across social media before the government could even respond. But behind this horrific attack lies a much deeper truth, one that could tear open the walls of Westminster witnesses. Say the rampage began on a train from Doncaster to London. An ordinary journey turned into a nightmare. Somewhere between Peterborough and Cambridge, screams erupted inside the carriage. Passengers hid in toilets, others were trampled in panic. A man armed with a large knife slashed indiscriminately. Blood stained the seats, cries echoed down the corridor. Within minutes, the emergency stop was pulled. The train screeched to a halt at Huntington just before 7:45 p.m., and what unfolded next would shake the nation. A taxi driver waiting nearby filmed the moment the attacker burst out of the station doors, knife in hand. He said, "I thought it was a Halloween prank until I saw the blood." He watched as armed officers swarmed the platform. The suspect refused to drop his weapon. They tasered him. He fell. The words, "Drop your weapon," rang out. And that's when Britain realized this wasn't just another crime story. This was the spark that lit something larger. Police confirmed 2 British-born men, aged 32 and 35, were arrested on suspicion of attempted murder. 2 remain fighting for their lives in hospital. 4 others, lucky enough to survive, were discharged overnight. British Transport Police immediately declared a major incident. Within an hour, counter-terror units were deployed, and Operation Plato, the national response code for a marauding terror attack, was activated. But what stunned the nation wasn't just the brutality of the event. It was what came after. Defense Secretary John Healey called it an isolated incident. Yet sources inside the Home Office leaked a different story. Intelligence officers had reportedly warned weeks ago about elevated risks of radicalized violence on public transport. Those warnings ignored. And now, as questions piled up, an election scandal was quietly brewing beneath the surface, one that could destroy careers and expose just how much the government knew before this happened. Within hours of the attack, social media exploded. Huntington attack trended globally. Citizens demanded answers. Why were warnings buried? Why were police response times stretched thin? And why had funding for transport security been cut just months before the general election campaign? Opposition MPs accused the Prime Minister of criminal negligence, while government spokespeople scrambled to contain the political fallout. Downing Street held an emergency meeting before dawn. Sources leaked that the Prime Minister, already under pressure over the asylum crisis and corruption allegations tied to campaign funding, feared this tragedy could derail his fragile re-election bid. One aide described the scene as panic behind closed doors. Leaked minutes from that meeting hinted at discussions about narrative control, essentially shaping how the public would perceive the attack. By morning, the official line changed. What was initially described as a potential terror-related event was rebranded as an isolated mental health incident. But the timing, just months before a national election, raised eyebrows everywhere. Investigative reporters began connecting dots between government inaction, ignored intelligence reports, and a desperate attempt to preserve political stability. In Parliament, tempers flared. Opposition leader Amelia Grant accused the Prime Minister of using tragedy to hide truth. She demanded a full inquiry, claiming security failures were the direct result of government cuts and political arrogance. Members shouted across the chamber, some calling it Westminster's Waterloo. But the public wasn't waiting for answers anymore. The footage was out. The truth was bleeding across screens faster than the government could spin it. Outside, protests grew. Citizens gathered outside train stations holding candles for the victims. Others chanted, "We deserve truth." Hashtags like Election Scandal UK and Britain in Crisis dominated feeds. For many, this wasn't just about one attack. It was about a government seen as broken, reactive, and dishonest. Behind the scenes, whispers of election manipulation began circulating. Documents leaked to the press revealed senior ministers allegedly pressured investigators to delay classified reports until after the election. Another memo hinted that security alerts had been suppressed to avoid public panic during campaign season. In short, it wasn't incompetence. It was politics. By nightfall, the Prime Minister addressed the nation in a pre-recorded message. No live questions, no audience. His tone, somber, scripted, calculated. He promised a full investigation and renewed commitment to public safety. But for millions watching, the words felt hollow. The internet responded instantly. Too little, too late. Meanwhile, victims' families began to speak out. One survivor described hearing screams and prayers mixing together as passengers hid. Another said, "We were trapped like animals, and nobody came for us fast enough." Their grief became a rallying cry. The train that stopped at Huntington had become a symbol of fear, failure, and forgotten promises. As election season heated up, the opposition called for resignations. Polls showed public confidence in government leadership plunging to record lows. Headlines read, "Knife on the tracks, blood on their hands." Foreign media labeled Britain a nation on the edge. The scandal was growing faster than any campaign could contain it. And yet, amidst all the chaos, one truth began to rise from the noise. People were done staying silent. They wanted justice, accountability, and leadership that valued lives over politics. Citizens began recording, sharing, and spreading unfiltered coverage, bypassing official narratives entirely. Independent outlets like Brit Alert News became the only voice many trusted. The government tried to silence online coverage, claiming it interfered with ongoing investigations. But censorship only fueled the fire. Every deleted video doubled in views once reposted. Every silenced voice found a louder echo. The story wasn't going away. It was growing stronger. And as Britain watched itself unravel on live screens, one chilling realization settled in. This wasn't just an attack. It was a mirror. A reflection of a nation divided, afraid, and on the verge of political collapse. The Prime Minister promised stability, but voters saw something else: desperation. Rumors of resignations, leaked polling data, even internal party coups began surfacing daily. Westminster had become a battlefield. The Huntington train attack will go down as more than just another tragedy. It will be remembered as the moment the system cracked, when the truth slipped through government fingers and the people finally saw what was really happening behind those polished speeches. And photo ops. Britain is standing at a crossroads. The election scandal deepens, public faith collapses, and anger grows. And as we move closer to polling day, one question remains. Will the people choose to forget, or will they finally rise?